Hello, I'm so sorry for the technical issues we've been having today, and thank you for anybody that is bearing with us. I've just realised I have no viewers yet, so I shall wait. Hello, thank you for coming back. We're so sorry for the technical issues we've been having this morning. As you can tell, this is the first time we've done this. We usually like to deliver these sessions face to face, but you live, you learn. Please feel welcome to give us any feedback that you may have. And if you know anybody that has more experience of delivering webinars, then please direct them to us. So as you've heard from Ben and myself now, we have uploaded the training slides to our home YouTube page, which is just Carers Trust South East Wales if you search in the top of your YouTube box. If you have any questions on that at any time, you should be able to comment. We have had people say that they aren't able to comment. So if you're not able to comment, then you're welcome to contact us via Twitter or Facebook or email, which is hello@carerfriendly.co.uk. We have had a question from a Tony. I don't know if Tony's able to watch at this point, but we will get back to him directly if he's not. So Tony asked a question with the current situation with COVID-19, if you're able to go and collect the person that you care for from their home, bring them to your home for the day, and then take them back without them interacting with any other people. Obviously, we all know that the guidance is that you shouldn't have any kind of unnecessary social interaction. I can kind of speak from personal experience here. We care for my grandmother who has a variety of health conditions, and we have been going up every day to provide her with care. So I suppose if you're going to provide essential care anyway, you're not kind of increasing the risk to the person that you care for, but ultimately it needs to be a decision that is made between you and the person that you care for. The guidelines are there. They're not necessarily legal or legally binding, but they're there for the benefit of the person that you care for and yourself. But what you can do, Tony, if you want to give us a call just to talk through any kind of concerns or anxieties you may have around that, and maybe we can give you a bit more of a kind of a personal advice on that, because every situation is different, and it may be that actually not having contact with the person that you care for at this time might be more detrimental to their health than the risk that is posed by COVID-19. All any of us are doing is minimizing the risk of catching COVID-19. There's no guarantees that we're not going to catch it. Bacteria is everywhere. And it's a really anxious time for all carers. A lot of carers are, being forced to distance themselves from the person that they care for, which in itself can be really emotional and really tricky. And then you're worried about, if you do see them, are you going to infect them, or are you going to increase their risk of catching it? And there are no kind of hard and fast answers on this, unfortunately. And I imagine that's why Tony was asking, in that, it's a matter of kind of looking at your situation, looking at the risks either way of having contact with the person you care for and not having contact with the person that you care for. If you're providing vital care to that person, then chances are you will have to see them. And for example, paid domiciliary carers are still going in and providing that essential care. So in theory, as long as you are protecting yourself and the person that you are caring for, so making sure that you're keeping up with your hand hygiene, wearing a mask and gloves and a visor if it's available to you, but we know they are very much in short demand at the moment, and maybe contacting your local authority if there is something that you do that is vital that you aren't perhaps able to provide at the moment, especially if you become ill yourself, and asking if they can support you, asking for a contingency plan. Tony, I don't know where you actually live, and I don't even know if you're watching. I haven't quite figured out how to do that, but hopefully you'll be able to see this at some point and it will answer your question. So if you go onto the Carers Trust website, which is just carers.org, and search for your local carer support service. If you live in South East Wales, then it will be the Carers Trust South East Wales. If you live in another part of the UK, then there will be another local support service for you. We know that everyone's doing their best to support carers at this time. We may not be able to come and see you in person, obviously, but we'll give as much support as we can by email and telephone. We've been in touch with all carers that we've had contact with recently, to check in with people, to ask how they're doing. If you haven't received a call from us and you would like a call from us, then do just send us a private message via Facebook or Twitter, or an email, which is hello@carerfriendly.co.uk, and someone will get back to you as soon as we can. And we're more than happy just to have a chat if that's what you need at this point. So if you have tuned in to receive the Supporting Carers training, that training has, due to the technical errors that we've received today, we've encountered today, that training is available on our homepage, which is the Carers Trust South East Wales, on our YouTube homepage. You can watch that at any time at your convenience. And if you have any questions, you can comment on the comment section of that, and we will get back to you. We've got members of staff manning each of our pages at the moment to answer any questions that you have. And you are welcome to ask any questions in the live chat comment box, which is to the right of my face right now, I believe, unless you've moved it somewhere else, in which case, well done, you're more technical than me. I see that Lisa, my colleague Lisa, is available to help some questions. So what we've been doing for the last few weeks as an organisation is contacting any local services that are supporting carers at this time to offer our support. So we've been sending out posters, we've been sending out emails, phone calls, just trying to get in touch with as many people as possible to let them know that support is available to carers. And really lobbying for supermarkets and pharmacies, the two main places that people are actually going at the moment, to advertise what support is available to carers within their communities, but also to give carers priority. So, we're seeing a lot of NHS staff or social care staff being given priority, which I'm sure we'll all agree is absolutely necessary at the moment. And a lot of supermarkets and pharmacies are doing priority for vulnerable people. But what we're asking them to do is also to include their carers in that as well, because many carers will be struggling with waiting in a queue for 2 hours to get into a supermarket when they have other things that they need to do. Or if you have to take the person that you care for along with you, then obviously you've got the concerns about waiting in a queue for 2 hours with them. I'm saying 2 hours, it's not always that long. But also just the kind of increased risk of exposure to infection that all of us are worried about at this time. So if you have any more questions, then do write in the comment box. But if you just want to receive the training, then I absolutely do encourage you to go to our homepage on YouTube. So that's Carers Trust South East Wales. And the training that we have created is applicable for any kind of service, delivering any kind of service to anyone within the UK. So we've tried to make it quite generic. We do like to deliver this training face-to-face in a workshop format. So we'd like to get whole teams together and workshop how they support carers and what they can do more to support carers. And just really raising awareness of who carers are and what support's available to them. So if you have just joined us, then please do go to our homepage. That's Carers Trust South East Wales, through the search box at the top of your page that you should be looking at the moment. And it will give you our webpage, which has got the training and the slides uploaded to it. Unfortunately, we're not able to show you the slides as I'm talking, so I'm just going to keep talking at you and hoping that if you have any questions, then you can answer it. So we were talking at the start of this about kind of the difficulties that coronavirus has placed on carers. So many carers are unable to see the person that they care for to provide that face-to-face support, or they're worried about doing that because of the increased risk of infection, or because the guidance is not to have unnecessary contact with people. Now, I mean, generally speaking, by definition, so to be a carer, you have to be providing support that the person that you care for would not be able to cope without. So by very definition, the contact that you're having with the person that you care for is in many ways essential care. But obviously, it's just understandable that people have very big fears about whether or not they should be exposing the person that they care for to any increased risk. Me and my family have been visiting my grandmother to put drops in her eyes for the last few weeks, all trying to stay 2 meters away from her at all times, except for when we actually have to touch her face to put her eye drops in. So there are some things that we just have to do, because without that essential care, that poses a risk to them without, in addition to coronavirus. So a lot of carers we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, actually. And then on the opposite end of that spectrum, we've got carers who live with the person that they care for, who don't have perhaps any opportunity for respite, don't have access to social opportunities or social, any kind of social respite for the person that they care for. Perhaps carers have stopped coming because all non-essential care has kind of been stopped. People may have a lot of concerns over kind of the implications for the Social Services and Wellbeing Act, or the Care Act if you live in England. And how kind of the temporary legislation that's been brought in for up to the next 2 years may affect the care that you were getting before. So a lot of things have changed very quickly for a lot of people. And we really wanted to deliver this session today to talk about what support is available and actually how can anybody within our community support carers. So, we all have a responsibility to look after our carers, because carers save the UK economy so much money, £132 billion every year. There are 7 million carers in the UK, and that is set to rise by at least 60% in the next 10 years. So looking after carers is everybody's responsibility. And thank you for tuning in today, because you've taken the first step towards helping carers. I'm aware we've lost a lot of people along the way. I'm hoping that a lot of people will pick this up. We can deliver this training to all sorts of people. And we can adapt it to the time that you have. We like to workshop it because it can really help to bring home kind of the points that we're delivering. So we like to ask teams to think about, the sort of carers that you might interact with as a service, how you can work together as a team to support carers. Inevitably, we usually have at least one person in the room who's happy to say, I am actually a carer myself, because around 10.5% of the population are carers. So when you think about, if you've got a team of 10, at least one of them will be a carer, sometimes more, sometimes less. But any one of us can become a carer at any time. You never know when that accident's going to happen or that diagnosis is going to come that's been unexpected. And I'm sure we can all envisage a time in the future when we might be looking after elderly family members or friends, neighbours. Any one of us could find ourselves in a position where we are being relied upon by others and we're therefore caring for them. And so it's really important that everybody knows what support's available for carers on a personal level, but also on a professional level. If we don't look after carers, then carers can often become the cared for, because they may have health issues of their own or emotional management issues, because it can be very stressful to look after somebody full time, or any of the time actually. But if you do have any questions, you can see in the live chat box, a lot of my colleagues are on board to answer your questions. And also there'll be somebody on the slides page to, the training slides video that we've uploaded to answer any questions that you have. We are also on our inbox, which is hello@carerfriendly.co.uk if you have any questions. And again, we would just really like to apologise for the technical errors that we've had today. And if you do have any questions, and if those questions haven't been answered, then do let us know. But I believe my team are very eager, as you can see in the live chat box, to answer any questions that you may have. So I apologise that you've just been watching us talk, but do watch those slides. We really want you to watch those slides, because those slides are aimed at delivering the messages that we wanted to deliver you today. I can actually talk through the majority of them. As I'm here, I can just start talking to you now. So the definition of a carer, I think it's really important that we're very clear about what we're talking about when we're talking about carers. So we are talking about unpaid carers, and our definition of an unpaid carer is anyone who cares unpaid for a friend or family member who, due to illness, disability, a mental health problem, or an addiction, cannot cope without their support. And it's that cannot cope without their support bit that is so important. We all often provide support to family or friends, and often when people need support, they will go to their family and friends before they'd even consider asking a professional to help them. And so often it's friends and family in the first instance that provide that necessary support to somebody. So a carer can be of any age. So we're looking at young carers, not just adult carers. So often people under the age of 18 are caring for a friend or a family member. I think the majority of the time with young carers, it is family member in their immediate family. So they might be helping to look after a parent or a sibling, grandparent, usually people within their own home. But you don't actually have to live with the person that you care for to be a carer. Excuse me. So you may actually live quite far away and be travelling quite long distances to support the person that you care for. You might look after more than one person, which adds its extra challenges. You might be torn in all sorts of directions actually at the same time. You might also have paid employment, and we've had a heck of a lot of calls from from working carers over the last few weeks. A lot of people's working conditions have changed as a result of coronavirus. A lot of people have been furloughed or just completely made redundant, and now they're worried about the financial pressures, about how they would find employment as a carer again in the future. And so, excuse me, I don't have coronavirus, I don't think anyway. Yeah, a lot of people have to juggle work and caring. Unfortunately, a huge amount of people have to give up work to care for somebody that they love, which means that has a huge knock-on effect to perhaps their self-esteem, their self-image, their finances. It has a huge effect on every single part of their life. And you might not be the only person providing care. So you just because another friend or family member is also helping doesn't mean that the care you're providing, that it doesn't mean that you're not a carer. So you don't just have one carer within a family. You might have 10 carers within a family if all those people are providing essential care to the person that they care for. So we're looking at adults and children, well, of all ages really, providing that essential care. What we're not talking about is foster carers, people who are being paid to care. So they are still carers, they're providing a caring role, but we wouldn't be talking about paid carers or paid domiciliary carers. We're not talking about people who are employed to care. We're talking about people who are doing it out of love or out of duty to the person that they care for, a friend or a family member or a neighbour, for example. We're also not talking about kinship carers unless the person that the family member is caring for has additional needs. So if you're caring for a child with an additional need, you would be a parent carer. But we're not talking about just parents in general who are caring for anyone without additional needs. We hear the term a lot at the moment, hidden carers. So people are talking about carers who haven't been identified essentially as a carer. And there are many reasons why people don't identify themselves as carers, and I will go into that in a bit more detail soon. But hidden carers are often people who see what they're doing as just generally part of their role. So I'm not a carer, I'm a child, I'm a parent, I'm a wife, for example. So it's really important that when we're trying to identify carers, we don't just ask them, are you a carer? Because a lot of people will say no, even if they are actually providing care. So the more, a question that we would recommend asking instead is, do you help to look after somebody within your friends or family, or, your neighbours? You just generally, do you help to look after somebody? And then we can start having that conversation of, do you realise that actually you'd be classed as an unpaid carer, and as such, there's support available to you? And helping people identify themselves as an unpaid carer is probably the most important thing that we can do, because that's the first point of getting access to the support that carers are entitled to and that they may actually need at various times throughout their caring journey. Some people actually object to the term caring journey. I know that many parent carers are quite strongly against the term journey because they don't see it as a journey, they see it as their life. And many people are in lifelong caring roles. So it's, the terminology, I suppose I maybe shouldn't have said journey there. But yeah, for many people, caring can be quite short term. There can be quite a lot of emotional, can't think of the word. It can be a very emotional experience, especially if you're caring for somebody who has a lifelong condition or a terminal condition or a life-limiting condition. It can be really difficult to navigate that, especially when there's not necessarily an end in sight. Or if there is an end in sight, that in itself can be quite tricky. So some examples of why someone might need a carer then. So it can be anything really. So we've got chronic physical illnesses or disabilities, mental health problems, an accident or an illness. So sometimes people can become carers overnight, and sometimes it can happen very gradually. So a progressive illness like dementia or Parkinson's, motor neurons disease, just general frailty, just getting older and needing support as a result of that. Those things can happen very gradually over time, and so often carers don't realise it's happening until they get into a point that perhaps they're finding themselves struggling to cope with it. And sometimes it can happen overnight, very instantly, for an accident, a stroke, a diagnosis of something quite serious like cancer, for example. Often people become carers without any warning or without realising it. And so that's why it's so important for us to help people identify themselves as carers. So some examples of what a carer might do, just to kind of really drive home who we're talking about here. So they might give medication, or they might help with storing medication, administering that medication, sorting out prescriptions at the pharmacy, for example, liaising with GPs and doctors and specialists, and just trying to make sure that the person that they care for has the medication that they need. But also just reminding people to take it or encouraging them to take it if perhaps they're forgetful or reluctant. Providing emotional support is a huge one. A lot of carers will be providing round the clock emotional support. So they might only be providing, practical physical help once a day, but they might be available on the phone round the clock, and they may get calls, 24/7. And often we can't really underestimate the strain that continually worrying about somebody else or continually having to put somebody else's needs before your own can put on us emotionally. Transportation, so that might be booking taxis, that might be actually physically transporting somebody yourself to social activities, to appointments, to do their shopping, or just arranging travel arrangements for the person that you care for. Appointments, going to appointments, helping somebody to arrange their appointments, to keep on top of their diary, going with them to their appointments, for emotional support, moral support, practical support. If anyone's ever taken somebody to a hospital appointment, it can take about 3 hours for a 10-minute appointment just to get there, to wait, to see the person, and then to get back out again. Personal care, so help with bathing, washing, toileting, getting dressed, anything at all really. Household tasks, so cleaning or cleaning or maintenance of the house, organising the house. Shopping, general grocery shopping, clothes shopping, anything at all. But that also includes things like keeping on top of sell-by dates, keeping on top of storage within the home, buying toiletries, that sort of thing. Helping them to get in that bath or the car, so utilising a walking aid or wheelchair or hoist. Mobilising around the house, or mobilising outside of the home as well. Social activities. So social activities might seem like something that's unnecessary, but actually all of us require some level of social interaction. And if you're helping somebody to attend social activities, and they wouldn't be able to do that without you, then you may be their carer. And money management. So accessing money, managing benefits, banking, budgeting, anything really to do with money. The carer might be helping with that. So the statistics around carers are quite shocking, actually. I know I've already mentioned some of them. So carers save the UK economy £132 billion every year, which is an astonishing amount of money. It's more than the NHS budget for parts of the UK. And actually in Wales, particularly, carers provide 96% of all care. So when you think about the NHS and social care workers, actually they only provide 4% of the care that is provided in Wales. So carers are absolutely vital to all of us and to our communities. And without the support that is available to them, they may be struggling, or they may have a detrimental impact on them. There are 7 million carers in the UK. There are 370,000 in Wales. And we know that figure is set to rise. And we know that figure is a conservative estimate. We know that not all carers identify themselves as carers. And therefore, they're not getting the help or support that they need or may be entitled to. And caring can affect every single part of our life, really. Having to put someone else's needs before your own can affect you emotionally, physically, financially, socially. Your options can be quite limited as a result of your responsibilities. So 61% of carers reported in a survey in 2017 that they had suffered depression. 92%, unsurprisingly, 92% became more stressed as a result of caring. And many carers overlook their own health needs and their own health issues because of the person they care for, because they're always putting somebody else first. 60% of carers experience a reduction in income as a result of caring. So a lot of carers have to give up work to care. A lot of carers may have to change their role to something maybe less responsible or less well paid, so that they can be flexible around their caring responsibilities. So 60% of people would experience a reduction in income as a result of caring. And that's quite significant when we look at actually the majority of carers are aged over 64. So the majority of carers would be pension age anyway. So the fact that 60% of all carers received a reduction in income demonstrates just how much of an impact it can have on working age carers. Maintaining relationships with other people can be really difficult when you're caring for somebody, because you don't necessarily have the time or the energy to invest in your other relationships outside of your caring role. A lot of people have 45% have to give up work to care, which is really significant. A lot of employers don't necessarily provide the support or the flexibility for people to continue caring whilst they're working. That's something we're trying to address at the moment. We do have a carer friendly employers accreditation scheme. If you know anybody that could do with becoming more carer friendly as an employer, then do let us know and we will get in touch with them. 40% of carers report that they haven't had a day off in over a year. So if you can imagine having a job where you never have a day off, 40% of carers have reported that they just don't have any kind of respite. 75% of carers have suffered mental ill health as a result of caring, and 35% were not aware of what benefits they're entitled to. So I will talk a little bit more about what benefits people are entitled to shortly. And obviously there are many benefits to caring. There's a reason that we all do it. We do it out of love. We do it out of duty for the person that we care for. It's a way of expressing how much we care about somebody as well. It can be hugely satisfying to care for somebody. It can feel like, you're giving something back to other people, especially if you're caring for somebody who's once cared for you, so a parent or a grandparent, feeling like you're actually giving something back to them. And it can strengthen relationships as well. It can really bring families together to care for somebody. You also get a peace of mind from knowing that the person that you care for is getting a good level of quality of care. And it can help build on any skills that you might already have, or you might find yourself doing things that are completely different or completely new to you, which can help you develop your own skills. It can help you develop your own resilience, and maybe give you a sense of purpose as well. So there are many reasons why carers don't identify themselves as carers. And one of the biggest things is people just see it as part of their role within that relationship. So, for example, they might think, I'm not a carer, I'm a wife, or I'm a child, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. So it can actually be quite difficult to have that conversation with people where you're talking about, I am a carer. And all we can suggest is that you have that conversation in as delicate a way as possible. And as tactful as possible, really, especially if you're talking in front of the person that they care for. Another barrier to people identifying themselves as carers is that it can be quite difficult for the person that they are caring for to accept that they need a carer. So it can be quite difficult when you've had a diagnosis to think about, from personal experience, I know when I've had a diagnosis, I think, gosh, the idea of somebody ever having to look after me and placing that, feeling like you're placing a burden on people, can be really tricky. So if someone's then coming along and calling your partner, your child, your parent, your carer, that's a really hard thing. That's a really hard pill to swallow, actually. That's a really hard thing to accept. So it's definitely worth being tactful and gently, maybe indirectly, just letting people know what a carer is, so that people can identify themselves as carers when they are ready and able to do that. Also, the person that they're caring for may not have a visible or obvious disability. So it might not be obvious that somebody is caring for somebody, especially if they have something that's not visible, say a mental health problem or an addiction, for example. Those carers may go unnoticed because they're not necessarily visible to us. If somebody's walking along pushing a wheelchair, you're more likely to know or just think, oh, that person's caring for that person. Whereas if they're just walking along with somebody who physically looks and seems like they don't have any kind of health issues or any need for support, then we're less likely to identify them as a carer. And it can be quite difficult to discuss with a carer any kind of difficulties that they're having with managing their caring role in front of the person that they care for. And sometimes it might be tricky for them to get away from the person that they care for. So it can be really hard for them to have an open and honest discussion about any difficulties they might be having. And another reason why a lot of carers don't come forward is that they're worried what will happen if they say, actually, I am struggling with this and I do need support. So they're worried what will happen, firstly, with the relationship with the person that they care for. Am I going to make them feel bad? Am I going to upset them by saying, actually, I need some help in caring for you? They're worried about losing control. So social services coming in and taking over, for example, or the person that they care for being taken into a home. That's a real fear for many people, and I'm sure we can all kind of relate to that as well. And they worry about how it'll affect the relationship with the person they care for. Will they kind of exacerbate any kind of fear that that person has about being a burden already. You know, a lot of people worry about being a burden or feeling like a burden, and that's it's a horrible word, burden, and it can really put strain on relationship to look and actually step back and think about the shift in dynamics that may have happened as a result of the caring role. So how do we overcome those barriers, really? So I suppose informing people of what an unpaid carer is and raising awareness of who unpaid carers are is first and foremost the biggest thing we can do to support carers. I think when we're doing that, if we're doing that indirectly rather than saying directly to somebody you are a carer, then it perhaps will have a knock-on effect. Where possible, we will say directly to somebody, are you aware that you may be an unpaid carer and there is help available to you? But just generally raising awareness. And so the more people who know what an unpaid carer is, the more likely a carer is to get identified as early a stage as possible. Encouraging carers to think about how it might benefit them to ask for help. So focusing on all the benefits of asking for help and how it might relieve some of the pressure on them, rather than focusing on all the potential kind of loss of control and the negative aspects that they may see to saying, actually, I could do with some help. Dispelling some myths about what a carer's assessment is, which I will talk to you about right now, actually. So a carer's assessment is a local authority statutory legal duty to support carers, and every local authority has a duty to support carers. Those duties have been relaxed recently, but we're hoping that won't actually affect the direct support that carers are getting. And if you do want support and your local authority isn't supporting you, then please do go onto the Carers Trust website and search for your local support services. There are many of us across the UK providing support, and your local support service will be able to provide you with specialist local knowledge. So a carer's assessment is meant to be a gateway to support from your local authority, so your local council. It is not an assessment of your ability to care. And I think the word assessment puts a lot of carers off in the first place. So it's not an assessment of you as an individual. It's not an assessment of your ability. It's an assessment of actually, what can we help you with? What do you need help with? Where are you struggling? And it would serve carers well to be as open and honest as possible during that assessment. At the end of the day, local authorities don't want to take people into residential care. They don't want to spend money because they don't have money to spend on care. So they're not looking to take control away from you. They're not looking to stop you from doing tasks if you're happy to carry on doing them. But on that note, it is your opportunity to say, actually, I'm not willing to do this. I can't do this anymore. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be all of the caring role, but there may just be some aspects that you're struggling with. So, for example, if you were struggling with getting somebody in and out of the bath or the shower because of physical limitations or because of any kind of strain that was putting on your relationship, you do have a right to say, actually, I'm not willing to do this. And the carer's assessment should signpost you to local services that are available to you, and it would be an opportunity for you to get respite care in place. So a carer's assessment can be requested at any time at all. As long as you are a carer, you can request a carer's assessment, whether you've literally just become a carer or you've been a carer for many years. And you can actually ask for a reassessment at any time, and it's particularly important that you do that if the person that you care for, their needs change or your own circumstances change. And a carer's assessment can be done at the same time as the assessment of the person that person cares for. But we recommend that, as good practice, is done as a separate assessment. So it's a carer's assessment in the carer's own right. So to access a carer's assessment, you just need to go onto your local council's website and search for carer's assessment. If you're watching this as a professional looking to support carers, then absolutely do make note of how somebody within your local area would access a carer's assessment. Sometimes they're done by an outside organisation, but the local authority does have to provide a carer's assessment. So if you can't find anything on the website about a local carer's assessment, then get in touch with us, because we will look into that for you. We are hello@carerfriendly.co.uk if I haven't already said that a million times. Or you could just call the local adult social services team and ask for a carer's assessment. Now, another bit of help that carers are entitled to is carer's allowance. So this is a benefit that carers can claim, but there are a variety of conditions that a carer has to meet to get those. I'm going to go through them now, but if you Google at any point on the .gov website, then you will find this information. So to get carer's allowance, you have to care for somebody who has a qualifying disability benefit. So they have to be claiming PIP or DLA. You have to care for somebody at least 35 hours a week. So you have to be providing the equivalent of a full-time job's worth of care. You cannot be in full-time education, and you can't earn over £120 a week after deductions. So it's quite limited as to who can claim this. It's claimed that it's paid at around £65 a week, just under. And if you are providing that 35 hours of care, which is the minimum requirement, that means you're getting about £1.85 an hour, which is nowhere near, as much as you'd get if you were working as a paid domiciliary carer. And if anything, that should drive home how much benefit it is to the local authorities, to carers, to know how much carers are contributing to our society, because if they were having to pay for somebody to provide that care, it would cost them a heck of a lot more money than £1.85 an hour. So I really want everyone now to think about what they can do to support carers within their service. If you go back onto our homepage and onto the Carers Trust South East Wales homepage and watch those slides, just take some time to think about how you can support carers within your service, within your community, as an individual, as a professional, as a carer yourself. How can you support other carers, or what support do you need, and how can we help you with that? The first thing that we can do is identify carers, because that is the first step to get us support. If you don't know you're a carer, you're not going to be accessing carer support specific services. You can support carers by signposting them to help, by offering emotional support, a break, social opportunities, providing information and advice, and encouraging carers to really look after themselves. Often carers don't want to put themselves first, or aren't able to put themselves first. Hi, Tony. Sorry, I've just seen your comment. I don't know if you watched at the beginning of this. You should be able to go back and watch live. I did answer your earlier question. So you were at Sainsbury's this morning, and a lady carer behind you was younger and was allowed to shop between 8 and 9. It might depend. We're really encouraging local authorities to allow carers of all ages. So we've had some young carers under the age of 18, quite significantly young, being turned away because they weren't an older person, but actually they were shopping for an older person. So it will depend on the supermarket. We know Sainsbury's are being really supportive of carers, and we're actually really impressed with what they're doing. We know that they're also really inundated with calls. We've struggled ourselves to get through to them, but they are providing home delivery to carers or people who are particularly vulnerable. I suppose we would just need to know the lady behind you, if she was a young carer, if she was a carer, an unpaid carer, or a domiciliary carer. So social care workers are getting priority. So paid domiciliary carers are getting priority because they're under a lot of pressure at the moment. And so they're providing priority to frontline care workers, so not just NHS workers, so domiciliary care workers as well, because that will free up some more time for them to go out and provide care to the people that they care for. Our domiciliary carers tend to look after the most vulnerable in society. And so we would encourage people to give priority to people who are caring. I think a real difficulty that a lot of carers are facing at the moment is that, unpaid carers don't have ID badges. So you don't have any way of saying to the supermarket, I am a carer. And we have heard about carers getting turned away, which is really unfortunate, and it is something we are looking into changing. But oh, sorry, Tony. Okay, I'll answer your question from earlier. So you asked if it was okay to go into the home, or to take the person that you care for out of their home and bring them to your home for the day if they didn't interact with anybody else. Essentially, my answer was that it would all depend on your situation, obviously. But if you're providing essential care to the person that you care for, then you probably would have had to have gone into their home anyway. So bringing them into your home, I don't see that would increase the risk. But the guidance out there is to avoid all non-essential travel, and to minimize your contact with other people. So the choice would be entirely yours. If you wanted to talk to somebody about it and talk to us, talk through it with a real person, not just me over a video link, please do just send us a private message with your phone number, and we will get somebody to call you to talk this through. Because it sounds like you could do with some specific advice on this. What we don't want at the moment is at any time really, is for carers to be kind of struggling and to not have that support. So wherever you live, Tony, just let us know. And if we can't help you, we can put you in touch with your local carer support service. To go back to the supermarket thing. So if you do live in South East Wales and you need something to verify yourself as a carer, then do get in touch with us. We are providing people with letters. to confirm that you are a carer and you should get priority. So we're happy to do that. Tony, if you live outside of South East Wales, we're still happy to try and help you with that. Ultimately, if a carer needs help, we're not going to turn you away. I hope that answers your question, Tony. Do comment if it hasn't. If there's anything else that's unclear, then let me know. I think essentially with coronavirus, a lot of us are we're trying to keep abreast of what's going on every single day, and the guidance is changing on a very regular basis. So it's very confusing. So if you are confused, if you do want some support, then do just give us a call or an email. We are hello@carerfriendly.co.uk. And we'll do our best to support you. I hope that you've all had the opportunity now to watch the training slides on our homepage. We'd encourage you to share those as widely as possible. They are a live public document. We know the most important thing for us is that information gets out there. So if you can share that around, then please do. We are hoping to hold another live webinar next Thursday, which is the 9th, I believe, of April. And we're hoping not to have the same technical issues that we've had today. We're hoping to iron out any kind of issues that we've had. But please do follow us. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We've got a website. Our website is carerfriendly.co.uk. On Twitter and Facebook, we are at carerfriendly. Or follow along to our Carers Trust South East Wales accounts. And we'll provide as much updated information as we can. Contact us anytime. If you'd like us to come and deliver this training to you in person live when this whole coronavirus nightmare is over, then we are more than happy to do that. In South East Wales, we can do that free of charge. So in most areas, so just let us know. And if there's anything at all that we can do to support carers within your community, please let us know, and we will make sure that we lobby for it. Thank you. I'm gonna log off now, but we will be continuing to monitor the live chat on the slides that we have posted on our homepage. So if you've missed it the last 20 times that I've said it, if you go to our homepage, there's Carers Trust South East Wales, and on our YouTube page, you will see that there is the Supporting Carers live webinar slides. They will be uploaded. I believe a recording of everything that I've said today should be uploaded to that as well. And if not, we'll find a way of making that happen. I apologise again for the technical errors. Thank you all for sticking with us. It's so great to see so many of you tuned in. And hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.